1. Planet of the Apes. Statue of Liberty reveal. Planet of the Apes. 1968. After surviving talking apes, slave camps, and desert exile, astronaut George Taylor stumbles onto a half-buried Statue of Liberty. He falls to his knees and cries, "You maniacs! You blew it up!" The twist hit like a bombshell. Earth all along? Rod Serling's screenplay, based on Pierre Boulle's novel, added the Liberty reveal late in production. Director Franklin Schaffner kept it hidden until the last scene. Even cast members didn't know. The statue was built on a California beach set using matte paintings and forced perspective. And it worked. Viewers screamed in theaters. The twist became legendary, cited in textbooks, homaged in parodies. It was a bleak punctuation mark at the end of a sci-fi adventure. And it reframed the film as a cautionary tale. A warning about war, pride, and humanity's self-destruction. A moment of spectacle with the soul of prophecy. 2. Stromboli emotional breakdown. Emotional breakdown. Stromboli. When Stromboli hit theaters in February of 1950, the most jarring moment wasn't in the script. It was what audiences suspected was bleeding through it. Ingrid Bergman's character collapses in despair near a smoldering volcano, her face twisted in anguish. The emotional breakdown felt too raw, too personal, and for good reason. Rumors swirled that Bergman, pregnant with director Roberto Rossellini's child during filming, wasn't just acting. A few reviewers speculated that sequence blurred the line between performance and personal crisis. Bergman, once beloved for her roles in Casablanca and Gaslight, had been married with a child when she began her relationship with Rossellini. The affair ignited a media firestorm. In a now infamous speech on the Senate floor, Colorado Senator Edwin C. Johnson condemned her as a powerful influence for evil. Though not an official Senate action, the statement echoed across headlines and talk shows. Hollywood distanced itself. She wasn't formally blacklisted, but offers dried up fast. The production itself was grueling. Rossellini, a pioneer of Italian neorealism, insisted on filming in real locations with a minimal crew and a loosely structured script. Bergman, isolated from Hollywood and under public scrutiny, delivered a performance that some film historians argue was fueled by genuine emotional turmoil. Box office numbers in the US were disappointing and commentators were divided. But in Europe, the film found more appreciation. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the scandal had ripple effects. While morality clauses had existed since the 1920s, studios began enforcing them more aggressively in the wake of the Bergman controversy. She continued working in Europe for several years, collaborating with Rossellini on multiple films. Their marriage eventually ended, but her career didn't. Bergman's return to Hollywood was marked by a Best Actress Oscar for Anastasia in 1957 and a later win for Best Supporting Actress in Murder on the Orient Express in 1975. She was also nominated for Autumn Sonata in 1979. To this day, the breakdown scene remains one of old Hollywood's most unexpected moments, not because of its script, but because of the real-life storm that seemed to seep into every frame. 3. Morocco, Lesbian Kiss. Lesbian Kiss. Morocco. In 1930, Marlene Dietrich shocked moviegoers by sporting a tuxedo and planting a kiss on another woman's lips in Joseph von Sternberg's Morocco. The fleeting but unforgettable moment took place under Hollywood's pre-code system before the Hays Code imposed strict regulations in 1934 and blew apart preconceived limits of on-screen acceptability. Numerous film scholars maintain the kiss might have originated from Dietrich herself, possibly on the spur of the moment. Von Sternberg, known for his stylized approach and fixation on Dietrich's persona, apparently embraced the audacious idea. Regardless of its origin, it stood among the earliest same-sex kisses in a prominent American film. The reaction was explosive. The New York Times applauded Dietrich's performance, while more conservative commentators called it scandalous. The tuxedo, the kiss, the air of confidence. These elements disrupted prevailing gender norms and created a cultural ripple that persists to this day. Morocco scored commercially and netted Dietrich an Academy Award nomination, but controversy lingered. The scene was later cited in arguments that pushed for heavier censorship, fueling the Hays Code crackdown. Some theorized Dietrich fully understood the uproar she was courting and aimed to cement her image as a daring star. Whether impulsive or carefully orchestrated, the kiss remains a watershed in early Hollywood's narrative of rebellion. 4. Psycho, the shower scene. 1216, the shower scene. Psycho. 1960. A bathroom. Curtain drawn. Janet Leigh steps in and for 45 seconds, cinematic language is rewritten. Alfred Hitchcock's infamous shower scene from Psycho took a day to film, 77 camera angles and 50 cuts. The knife never visibly enters skin, but the shrieking strings, Leigh's terrified face, and the rapid montage created pure terror. Audiences screamed. Some reportedly ran from theaters. Hitchcock insisted the film be shown with no late admissions, enhancing suspense. He even placed cardboard cutouts of himself in theater lobbies, warning viewers. The scene's editing style, by George Tomasini, became legend. Bernard Herrmann's score, Just Strings, elevated the moment to high art. And it all broke taboos. Nudity, violence, the death of a lead actress halfway through the film. Censors were stunned. The industry was stunned. Psycho ushered in a new era of psychological horror and moral ambiguity. And the shower scene, once condemned, is now dissected in film schools frame by frame. Even after decades, it remains the ultimate jump scare. 5. The Jazz Singer, First Words in Sound. First Words in Sound. The Jazz Singer. It wasn't the first movie to use synchronized sound. But when L. Jolson looked off-screen and said, wait a minute, you ain't heard nothing yet," the world changed. The line arrived 15 minutes into the 1927 film and jolted audiences used to silent title cards. Viewers gasped. Some applauded. Others were confused. But everyone knew something had shifted. That off-the-cuff quip wasn't in the script. Jolson improvised it during a recording session and director Alan Crosland kept it in. The Vitaphone process, which synchronized sound on disc, had made it possible. Warner Brothers bet everything on the experiment, sinking over $400,000 into production and equipment. Paid off. The film earned $3.9 million and cemented Warner's future. More importantly, it signaled the death knell of silent film dominance. Studios scrambled to convert sound stages. Actors scrambled to retool their performances. And many silent legends disappeared almost overnight. Jolson's line, "You ain't heard nothing yet," became prophetic. Not just a boast, but a promise. The talkies had arrived. 6. Freaks, One of Us. One of Us. Freaks. Todd Browning's 1932 horror film Freaks was already notorious for casting real sideshow performers with physical deformities. But the most chilling moment wasn't violent. It was celebratory. The One of Us scene. A banquet turns eerie as a group of circus performers welcome a new bride by chanting, "Gobble gobble, one of us." The actress, Olga Baklanova, recoils in revulsion as they offer her a cup to drink from. That sudden mood shift, from cheerful unity to social horror, unleashed visceral discomfort. The chant was based on real carnival initiation rituals, and the authenticity of the cast gave it a raw edge that fiction couldn't manufacture. MGM executives were horrified after the first screening. Audiences screamed. One woman reportedly threatened to sue the studio for mental anguish. The studio slashed the film by over 25 minutes, cutting entire subplots and sanitizing the ending. But it didn't help. Freaks was banned in several cities and nearly ended Browning's career. Still, film historians now point to the scene as a brilliant inversion of sympathy. The so-called monsters show unity and acceptance, while the normal woman reveals herself to be cruel and greedy. Modern critics champion the scene as a subversive commentary on inclusion and the societal fear of otherness. What was once a cinematic pariah is now preserved in the National Film Registry. The line "One of Us" has echoed across decades of pop culture. Few movie moments have aged from scandal to symbolism so completely. 7. A Streetcar Named Desire, Smashed Illusions. Smashed Illusions. A Streetcar Named Desire. In 1951, Tennessee Williams' searing drama reached the screen with Marlon Brando's electrifying Stanley Kowalski and Vivien Leigh's fragile Blanche DuBois. But one moment was almost lost to censorship. Near the end, Blanche breaks down, screaming that she's always depended on the kindness of strangers. In the original stage play, it's clear she's been raped. But the Hays Code demanded ambiguity. Director Elia Kazan and screenwriter Oscar Saul used shadows and camera angles to imply what couldn't be shown. The censors still pushed back. Lines were cut. Edits were made. But Vivien Leigh's performance carried the truth. Her dazed eyes, trembling voice, and distant stare made it clear Blanche's world had shattered. It was a moment of raw vulnerability that audiences felt in their bones. That closing line wasn't just a cry for help. It became a symbol of disillusionment, of how brutal reality collides with dreams. Critics hailed Leigh's performance as one of the greatest in film history. The line endures not as pity, but as poetry. 8. Bonnie and Clyde, slow motion death. Slow motion death. Bonnie and Clyde. The hail of bullets that ends Bonnie and Clyde in 1967 wasn't just brutal. It was balletic. Director Arthur Penn orchestrated the ambush with multiple cameras shooting at different speeds, creating a slow-motion montage that felt like operatic violence. Audiences had never seen a death sequence like it. Blood squibs exploded on Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty as their bodies danced in agony. Critics were divided. Bosley Crowther of the New York Times condemned the excess. Others called it revolutionary. The film's editor, Dede Allen, used jump cuts and overlapping action to disorient the viewer. The ending lasted less than a minute but took days to shoot. Penn cited inspiration from Sam Peckinpah's The Wild Bunch and French New Wave filmmakers. That scene helped redefine violence on screen. It didn't just shock. It lingered. It asked audiences to question their own appetite for spectacle. It changed the rules of pacing, of morality, of how heroes could die. 9. Anna Christie Garbo talks. The line that broke the silence. Anna Christie. In 1930, a single sentence changed the trajectory of one of cinema's most enigmatic stars. Greta Garbo, known for her haunting silence in the silent era, finally spoke on screen in Anna Christie. The line, "Give me a whiskey ginger ale on the side. And don't be stingy, baby. Give me a whiskey ginger ale on the side. And don't be stingy, baby," delivered in a husky, unpolished drawl. It wasn't just unexpected, it was electrifying. Audiences had never heard her vocal presence. Studios had delayed her transition to sound, fearing her Swedish accent might clash with American expectations. But MGM saw an opportunity. The studio launched an aggressive campaign built around just 2 words, Garbo talks. It was a gamble, but one that paid off instantly. That utterance became a cultural lightning bolt, echoed in theaters and parodied in vaudeville. The scene itself is unassuming. Garbo walks into a dingy waterfront bar, slumps into a chair, and orders a drink. But that moment carried the weight of an entire industry in flux. Many silent stars had already vanished, unable to adapt to the new medium. Garbo didn't just survive the shift. She dominated it. Critics hailed her vocal tone as intimate and magnetic, with the New York Times noting its strange throaty quality that defied her aloof screen image. Behind the scenes, tension ran high. Biographers suggest MGM privately tested her speech patterns before committing to a sound film, unsure whether her mystique would hold. Some insiders believed Garbo herself resisted the change, fearing her accent might alienate audiences. Others speculated she was simply waiting for the right role. Either way, Anna Christie became the perfect launchpad. That production earned her an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress and confirmed her staying power in a rapidly evolving Hollywood. But Garbo didn't play into the hype. She skipped premieres, declined interviews, and refused to comment on the film's reception. That reticence only deepened public fascination. Her voice, once a mystery, became a national obsession. Rumors swirled that her reluctance wasn't shyness, but strategy. By staying distant, she controlled her image in an industry built on overexposure. The iconic phrase that ended her quiet didn't just usher in the talkie era. It redefined what it meant to be a star in modern Hollywood. Garbo talked, then she disappeared back into legend. 10. Sunset Boulevard Dead narrator twist. Dead narrator twist. Sunset Boulevard. A corpse narrating his own murder wasn't just unexpected. It was unheard of in 1950. In Sunset Boulevard, Billy Wilder opened with Joe Gillis, played by William Holden, floating lifeless in a pool while calmly recounting how he ended up there. The twist: he's already dead, and the story unfolds from beyond the grave. This bold narrative move nearly didn't make it to theaters. According to film historians, early test screenings of the original version featuring corpses chatting in a morgue reportedly triggered laughter, not suspense. Paramount executives were rattled. Fearing the tone had veered into unintentional comedy, Wilder and co-writer Charles Brackett scrapped the morgue sequence and replaced it with the now iconic pool shot, anchoring the narration in Gillis's detached voiceover. Holden's delivery was a key. Maybe you'd like to hear the facts, the whole truth. So you've come to the right party. His flat, emotionless tone amplified the film's bleak critique of Hollywood's illusions. As Roger Ebert later observed, it sounded like a man who'd already given up. The structure itself broke rules, non-linear, fatalistic, and centered on a protagonist who doesn't survive past the opening scene. It was a storytelling gamble that paid off, influencing decades of films that followed. Several analysts suggest that Wilder's decision to linger on Gillis' floating body for nearly a full minute was more than just dramatic flair. They interpret it as a subtle jab at Hollywood's obsession with appearances, suggesting even in death, image is everything. Whether intended or not, the shot became one of the most haunting in cinema history. That sequence wasn't just a jolt. It was a cinematic curveball that redefined what noir could be. It dared to ask, what happens when the story starts after the end? Back when studios ruled everything and stars followed strict codes, these scenes shattered the silence. They weren't just shocking, they were revolutionary. Which moment left you speechless? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if old Hollywood's wildest, boldest moments fascinate you, don't just watch, subscribe. Because at Golden Age Spotlight, we bring the legends back to life, one scandalous scene at a time.